Welcome to the Master Your Energy podcast with Harry Massey, where we dive deep into the science and spirit of energy, health, and personal growth. In each episode, we speak with leading voices across fields like bioenergetics, integrative medicine, and conscious living, uncovering insights and tools to help you restore your energy, enhance vitality, and align your life with purpose. Whether you're a health practitioner, a seeker of well-being, or simply curious about the power of energy in your life, you're in the right place. Thanks for tuning in. To explore more about the world of bioenergetics and practical tools to transform your health, visit e4l.com.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Energy for Life podcast. I'm Brianne Gates, and with me again is Harry Massey. We're going to be talking today about our very exciting new product. It is called GEM, and the GEM is a wearable device. It detects, corrects, and protects your energy. We're going to ask Harry all the questions today about what is the GEM, why would it be good for me, why is it unique from all the other wearables on the market? So let's get started. What is the GEM and what was the impetus for creating it?
So the GEM stands for Guided Energy Management, and it'll detect, corrects, and protects both your energy and emotions. Now, if you ask me for the impetus, so we've had a long history of this company called miHealth that's now turned into Energy for Life, of creating this bioenergetic wellness system and a miHealth device and the Infoceutical, etc. One of the things that was always in the back of my mind is I always wanted to help. Well, I always wanted to help that 20-year-old self that got really, really sick in the first place. Because if I roll back to before I was sick, I was living this very, very hedonistic lifestyle of where, I would do extreme sports, like take a lot of risk in climbing, go out clubbing and stuff. But really I was just burying this sort of, I was just burying a lot of like self-worth issues and all of these negative emotions. And, when I look back at that period, I just realized if I'd been able to have more awareness of my emotional state, if I'd been managing my emotions better, I would have in turn been able to manage my energy. And, and we'll get into the sort of causes of how you leak energy, but one of the biggest reasons you leak energy is from negative emotions. Well, I'm sure we'll explain that later in the podcast. So I just really wanted to tackle that problem because, while we've got this amazing health system that's the bioenergetic wellness system with Infoceuticals and the miHealth, we didn't really have anything that would help people in real time to just manage their energy and emotions on a day-to-day basis. And of course, if you can do that, you can dramatically cut down the time it takes somebody to heal. Or of course, if they're not sick, you can help prevent them get sick in the first place.
Well, this is remarkable because, we all can have a roller coaster of emotions throughout the entire day. And so if there is something that can alert us to being in increased stress because of our emotions, could really help us get a handle on not allowing us to get to that place of stress because of our emotions. So, it's profound that there is, a wearable device through an app is going to let me know where I'm at during the day, what could be supportive. So tell me, how does it detect my emotions and where I'm at? How does it know what to give me as a signal to support change?
So it works from a few principles, but one of them in traditional Chinese medicine, you can basically read your pulse by putting three fingers here and feeling the pressure. And in short, you're looking at the shape of your overall pulse wave. And using technology, basically on the back of this, you've got PPG, and you've got some PPG sensors there, and those are able to look at the overall shape of your pulse wave, which is much more detailed than looking at heart rate variability or just looking at your heart rate, which is basically what all the other wearables do. And it's relatively complex maths, but looking at the different shape of your pulse waves, we can tell which traditional Chinese medicine pulse it is. And from there, we can basically tell you your emotional characteristics. It also gives you insight into different, basically different health conditions from a Chinese perspective. But, the product's much more focused on telling you your emotional condition. Like if somebody has a wiry pulse in Chinese medicine, a wiry pulse is associated with stagnant qi going through the liver, and stagnant qi through the liver. At the more extreme end, that would be anger. The less extreme end would be frustrated, or it can be in a healthy place where you're decisive and there's no sort of blockage of your qi. So that would be one example. Or you could take a damp pulse. And a damp pulse is associated with spleen, sometimes pancreas, and that pulse, would be associated with anxiety, for example. And so, we've basically traced these 13 TCM pulses that we can identify and related it to 13 different emotional characteristics that's more prominent and dominant for you. And as you go about your day to day, and if one of your emotions changes significantly, the wearable will obviously notify you. And by having awareness of your emotional state, that allows you to do something about it. But it goes further than that, because the device itself will help correct your emotions and energy in real time, because we know the associated meridians and therefore the associated biological information that will help correct your body's control system. We can imprint that information back into your body too.
Wow. So that is the detect part of how the gem works. And then there's also the correct. So once it has detected what emotional state I'm in, then the next step would be to correct it. And how does it correct it?
If you're very familiar with Infoceutical and with our miHealth device, it's basically a miniaturized version of that in our body of work of mapping out the human body field that is seen as a control system above chemistry, but for all metabolism and growth and function. When you're looking at that body field, you can input information into that field, either using an electromagnetic wave, you can use photons, you can use sound, you can do it through a liquid for an Infoceutical. But in this case, we basically use a PEMF coil and red and green photons, and we use that to carry information into the field of your body, or into your body's overall energy control system, and then it goes from there.
Oh, that's wild. I think I've never heard of anything like this, and I understand similarly, like the miHealth device can do that, but it's not a wearable. The miHealth can transmit information to the body via biophotons, via PEMF. But in this case, this is something that is where you're wearing, you can wear it 24/7. It can detect your emotions and then help you regulate those emotions. And then the third piece would be that it can protect. So that is an interesting part.
So the only difference between detect and correct, between correct and protect, is correct you can manually put in the biosignature that you want. So if you want energy, you can give yourself an energy boost or relax or sleep, etc. Mm-hmm. Protect is all that means is it's basically doing it 24/7. So it's always reading what's going on in your body, and then it's basically giving you the personalized correction in real time. So that's what
So
protecting.
that's more automatic. That is as
It's
soon
basic,
as,
yeah.
yeah.
It's protecting you 24/7. Yep.
Wow, that's incredible. And we've already had people using this in like our beta testing, giving feedback and saying like how much more relaxed they feel during the day, how their sleep has improved. These markers that if you're in stress or fight or flight during the day, then your sleep is going to be affected. So if you can take yourself out of that during the day, your sleep is going to be so much better. And that is, one of the main feedback that we're getting from the beta testers.
Yeah, well, it's pretty exciting. It's just about to go into a trial with University of San Diego. So that's going to be, we're going to find out the full truth from that. But I wanted to go back to something for people of like why energy is so important, also why negative emotions actually affect your energy. So if you're looking at overall cellular energy, if you have like 70 to 90 millivolts across the cell membrane, you're in a healthy state. And if you've got 50 to 70 millivolts, you're expressing all these symptoms. And when you're below 50 millivolts, in general, you've got fairly serious disease going on. And what's so fascinating is there's a few different leaks of energy from the body. One is pain, which is why my health device exists. The second is a distorted or what I would call a broken control system, which is how our whole Infoceutical world works to fix that, to make energy more efficient. But the third, and it's actually the most significant, is negative emotions. And there's so many different studies on that, but I could just take one for example. So if you look at this study done with smokers and looking at anger scores and lung cancer across a 10-year period, what they found was the people who were dying were the ones who had a very high anger score, and the ones who never got lung cancer, they were basically the ones in a positive, joyful state. And it's a bit confusing for people because we all think that smoking causes cancer, but actually, when you really break it down, it's the toxin, but plus, because of the negative emotion, it stops your lung tissue being able to basically to excrete the toxins. Basically, it stops your DNA and RNA repairing the damage. Which says a lot. Which says a lot. So like we're all, not we, but vast amounts of sick people in our industry. We get so obsessed with detox and getting all the toxins out of our body. But in actual fact, the research has proven this out. They spent a fraction of that time, or let's say the equivalent time, on actually helping to correct their emotions and doing more self-development work. Would have a far better outcome than focusing on detoxification. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't detox. You should. I mean, it's best to do everything, but from a domino type effect of where you're going to get your highest return, helping you to transform your negative emotions to a more positive state, make better life choices, build better relationships with people. That's going to have a far greater impact on your health. And again, that's why, honestly, when you look at our ecosystem, or like the overall philosophy, as I say, it's like, pain. If people are in pain, it's very hard. It's harder to be in a positive emotional state, and obviously that's very, very important to remove. But and then, as I say, emotions is the next one. But that's why this wearable and the miHealth are just such important devices for recovering your energy and then in turn recovering your health.
Yeah, it's definitely something that people don't think about enough. I think people are always looking for a pill, detox, something that they can quickly do rather than looking at like, their lifestyle, their thought patterns, their belief systems, how that is playing a role. And, we all know, especially people like you and I who've been chronically ill, we look back and we think, okay, if I had more just awareness around like you were saying, like more awareness around your emotions, perhaps, maybe you wouldn't have been as sick as long.
You get so probably anxious in the first place, but when you get sick and your energy drops, you get incredibly anxious and you're worrying about it all the time. And, over time, you just sort of begin to realize, well, actually, if you have a low day, okay, you have a low day, but you don't need to spin out about it. And the less you spin out about it, the quicker you actually recover and get back to a normal day.
So let's talk a little bit more about what is the difference between the gem wearable versus other types of wearables.
Let's start with some history of the wearables. So started with Fitbit. Fitbit, I think the first one just looked at heart rate. Then, over time, I think the Oura ring came along whenever it was seven odd years ago, and that was looking at like heart rate variability. Then Fitbit did that as well. Whoop came along. And then basically all of those trackers, they were looking at sleep, and really they're looking at indicators of movement and heart rate variability in the sleep. Looks at your overall movement in the day, and especially they're looking at the few days before, and I say they're looking at heart rate and heart rate variability. And none of those devices would do any correction. And then, so, a massive difference with the gem is it does all of that, but we're also looking at the overall shape of your pulse waves, so we can have these great indicators into your overall health and your emotions. And then secondary to that is the correction side. Now there are some other devices around. There's like there's a Nicky device that supposedly puts out a frequency. There's Apollo and Wave. They're putting out sound frequencies. I mean, they basically recorded like classical music, calming music, rock music, etc., and then basically took the vibrations of that and are just putting out those vibrations. It has some sort of effect, but from a research point of view, if you look up on their websites, they're basically associating themselves with the research articles talk about therapeutic touch and massage, etc. So it's a bit of a stretch on that one, I would say.
So you're saying they're using third-party research about massage and physical touch to show the efficacy of their product?
Pretty crazy, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't it doesn't make sense.
Vibration. So like touch. Well, a human touching you and hugging is not the same as a mechanical vibration. It's so
very different. Very different. Yeah, you definitely would want to use biophotons, a wave like PEMF, in order to transmit information.
Well, in our case, we're using university researched biosignatures. So originally all the biosignatures and Infoceutical information came out of our work with Professor Peter Fraser, and then those are being put to the test at UCSD. So we just took cell cultures, took an early version of the wearable, put them next to the cell cultures, and we basically imprinted the cell cultures to see the effects. So we were putting in what we call cell driver information. We're able to increase the density of mitochondria. We're able to protect the mitochondria from what's called ROS, but it's basically reactive oxygen species, or in other words, hydrogen peroxide, basically poisoning the cell. Able to protect the mitochondria by 67%. I did another one with like lung tissue where we're infecting with corona. We're able to reduce the viral penetration rate by 45%. This is all done in the lab at UCSD and just about to go to human trials. So we're the only device that will both detect, but we're detecting at a much higher level, and also correct. And of course, there's a whole AI part. I mean, you can download the reports and the data that come out of this and upload it into your, into your chat GPT and get even more detail. And if you're working with one of our practitioners, they can also look at your wearable data in tandem with your voice data as well to give a really, really comprehensive picture of what's going on in your body.
It's amazing. It's amazing that you've had this type of research done, like university research, proving that this does make such a significant difference in the mitochondria, protecting the cell. Those of us biohackers and anti-aging, pro-youthing enthusiasts really are looking for things like that.
Yeah, it's also why it's taken 3.5 odd years to bring this to market, because we just wanted to be very, very sure. Well, in fact, even before we wanted to go and make it, I wanted to be sure that it was actually very totally valid. And there's two parts of it. One on the reading the TCM pulse wave. Like, we hired a data scientist for 1.5 years to look at that and work out all the algorithms and make sure that that was a valid sort of proposition before we would go ahead and make a product. And then secondary to that, I also wanted to see what would happen to all of these cell cultures. Well, it's such an incredible device. It needs a higher level of proof for people. So that's why we basically wanted to go via UCSD and do all of that research first. And so we did those two parts before we actually went and made all the electronics and made the device.
So this is a subscription, or going to be a subscription-based device, correct?
So you can buy it and it will do all of the detection, emotional awareness side that we talked about. You'll also be able to manually correct yourself, like give yourself an energy boost, help with sleep, etc. But yeah, if you want the whole 24/7 protection, meditations that go with the protection, then that side's a subscription.
Well, I love it. I'm so excited that we're going to be putting this out very shortly.
It's a big month getting this out to market.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in. We are so excited about the gem coming to market, and we can't wait to hear all of your feedback. So, Harry, thanks for being here and giving us all the updates.
To explore everything we've talked about today, from bioenergetics to the GIST process, and to find free courses, transcripts, and ways to work with or become a practitioner, just visit e4l.com. You'll find one page that guides you to whatever best fits your next step.